The views and opinions expressed are that of the individuals and are not the reflections of any Grand Masonic body. The goal in this video series is to enlighten the minds of our viewers with Masonic education for the modern Freemason, wherever they might be. Take due notice thereof and govern yourselves accordingly. This is Modern Working Tools, today's tools for the modern Freemason. I am your host, Brother Justice, broadcasting live from Barrington 522 in Barrington, Illinois. Hello, I am Brother Justice with Modern Working Tools, today's tools for the modern Freemason, and I have a very special guest with us. Brother Angel Millar. He is a well-known Masonic author. He is also a spiritual-minded Freemason and someone who is a very informative speaker and someone who I respect very highly. And it's an honor to have with him with us right now. And I just want to introduce Brother Angel to our brethren here at Barrington and our district here in Illinois. I think he is very beneficial to our craft, and I think a lot of brethren can learn from his story. So I'm very happy to have you on, Brother Angel. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you very much. It's great to be here with you.
I appreciate you coming on here, and I would like to hear a little bit about your backstory, how you got involved.
Sure.
Where your lodge is, what keeps you motivated to keep going into the craft and to keep writing, pumping out amazing, and how you get into your research, and also in the spirituality too. How did you combine all these elements in Freemasonry? How did Freemasonry help you get closer to your spiritual aspect as well? So I would like to hear.
Yeah, great question. So I'll begin with my background, and my journey towards Freemasonry was a long one in many respects. I actually had a serious interest in esotericism and spirituality and alternative spirituality when I was very young. It really started when I was around 15, but then at a more serious level when I was around 17. And at that age, through a coincidence, I came across a sort of New Age, even occult bookstore a few miles from where I lived in Southeast London. And I ended up sort of spending a lot of time there and hanging out there. And there was kind of a whole scene around this shop of people practicing different types of spirituality. It was a very neo-pagan influenced, and a lot of other things as well. Sort of interest in quote unquote high magic, the Ordo Templi Orientis, which initially was a Masonic order, which is now essentially an occult order. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, they were interested in all that kind of thing, again, which has Masonic roots. And much of the occult in the 20th century was very significantly influenced by Freemasonry. And I hung out there for about a year, maybe a little bit more, year and a half. And then I sort of graduated to some more intense sort of spiritual things, and which are a little bit dark, it has to be said, to say the least. And I became a little disenchanted with much of what I saw in the sort of occult and alternative spiritual world. I mean, there are some definite good things. There's a lot of creativity, which is really good. But I sort of became disenchanted with it when I was around 20, and I kind of made a break with it. And at that point, I started looking more into mainstream religion, particularly Buddhism, a little bit of Hinduism. I started staying in a Benedictine monastery, which is Benedictines are Catholic monks. I started staying in a Benedictine monastery every year for a little while, and I took up Kung Fu. But before that, when I was sort of around 18, I managed somehow to get hold of the Rose Choir degree and the Royal Arch degree. And actually the Rose Choir degree, I stumbled across for sale on a used bookstore in Greenwich Market. And I purchased it for £5 or about $8. And somehow I forget how I got hold of the Royal Arch. But when I read through them, I didn't really understand it all, but it seemed to be a lot more intelligent than some of the things I was coming across. So I kept them and kept it in the back of my mind. I read a little bit about Freemasonry every now and again. And then when I came to New York in the end, around 1997, 98, I contacted the Grand Lodge. I think I actually walked past it and saw the big Masonic flag. And I decided to go in and ask if I could become a member. And it took about a year for me to become a member. I joined initially a publicity lodge in New York City, and now I'm a member of Compact Lodge in the same city. Compact Lodge is known to be a little more esoterically inclined than a lot of lodges. And obviously lodges go sort of through ups and downs or change their orientation. So, but the Compact Lodge is pretty focused on the esoteric. Yeah. In regard to how it sort of meshes with my spirituality, I would say the Masonic ritual and the initiatic experience is really the only kind of initiatic experience for men in the modern age, in the West at least, barring something like Sufism, which isn't specifically for men. And every culture prior to the modern age had initiations for men. My cat might start meowing in a minute. Had initiations for men, and really for young men who are transitioning from childhood into manhood. And we don't really have that anymore, unfortunately. And I think, one of the problems is that men don't really know when they become men, and it's difficult for men to become men in a way, partly because, not to go off at a tangent, but partly because, when a woman becomes a woman, she has a woman's body, and you can see that straight away. And she's menstruating as well. So there's sort of definite proof. Whereas, a man's body, you don't really get that just because you turn 16 or 17 or 18 or 20. The masculinity is something that has to be cultivated over a long time, and it's partly physical but also partly mental and partly spiritual as well. So I think going through the 3 degrees in particular, on the one hand gave me a lot of a sense of history of what it was like to live 300 years ago. I'm sure that pretty much every brother feels that it's just like stepping back in time or to another world. For many reasons, but also it gave me some kind of sense of what it would be like to be initiated in other cultures, even in tribal cultures, although the initiation would be very, very different, of course. But there is that sort of process where you're transformed into an adult male or into a man. And as I say, that's not something we have today. So other than Freemasonry. And so, I've focused, I think, more on that over the last few years. And my first few books were really histories of Freemasonry. The first one being just a straight history of Freemasonry. The second one being a history of the connections between Freemasonry and Western esotericism, like Golden Dawn, the Ordo Templi Orientis, Wicca, things like that. And then the third book was actually tracing connections between Islamic thinkers and Masonic sort of spiritual radicals from around 1850 to around 1920, and which opened up a whole kind of world that I don't think many people have ever explored, if ever. And then my last book is really the 3 stages of initiatic spirituality, craftsman, warrior, magician, is more of a philosophical kind of understanding of the initiatic tradition. And I don't mention Freemasonry that much in it, but if you read books from Freemasons 100 or 200 years ago, often they don't seem to be writing about Freemasonry, but if you're a Freemason, you can kind of see what they're saying on another level because they're kind of referencing it as they go without actually saying that. So I think, with that book, The Three Stages, I think a Freemason could see that it's tracing the initiatic process through 3 degrees. And the book is divided into 3 sections as if you're going in a literary sense through three degrees of initiation. So
I think that work is really good, and to my understanding, I think you have a new title coming up, right?
yes, that's right. Probably a more controversial title. It's called The Path of the Warrior Mystic, Being a Man in an Age of Chaos.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I think there's some things that the world just needs. You have to stand up for what you believe is right, even if you think the whole world is against you. And I think
Yeah.
that is an ancient concept that the ancient mysteries give to a candidate. If you in knighthood or a chivalric order or something like that, you are the defender of.
Yeah.
We as humans are we're almost like martyrs to our beliefs and what strives us. Uh,
Mm.
and like we talked about, privately off camera or whatever in the past, like you got to have a little bit of an ego. You got to keep it in check.
Yeah.
It drives the man, and I don't know
Hmm.
the primordial man or the reptilian man or whatever we are, the primate or what have you, but it drives us, and you got to keep it in check. And to my understanding, chaos is like creating that that energy. So sorry, my email.
No, no, no worries.
So yeah, it's about creating your own energy and giving
Mm.
life to your own. You're creating your almost like an ethereal body of yourself, and it's just
Mhm.
really complex. Like what's going on, you could explain way better than I am. So I'm just trying to understand it myself. Like we're all kind of students on this Masonic and spiritual journey or warrior journey,
Yeah.
and every day we're learning,
Hmm.
we're processing information. And
Yeah.
so what kept you motivated in the craft? Because I know it's not
Hmm.
for people watching this. I don't know the demographic is probably going to be younger brothers most likely because they're tech savvy or what have you, but
Right. Right.
not easy for people like us to come into an ancient old fraternity that's hundreds of years, some say thousands of years, what have you. And it's not easy to come in here and sort of find your place or find your.
Yeah.
And there's many journeys in the path that you could take, but it's very hard because when you come in, you're under the impression that, oh, it's not a secret society, it's a society with secrets. And yes, that may be true to an extent. However, when you're initiated into Freemasonry, there's other orders and things that you didn't hear about. There's
Hmm.
educational bodies, and I'm not going to talk really much about it because we don't know who's watching or what have you.
Right.
Um, there's more to it than at the surface level.
Hmm.
So there's social clubs and book clubs and all types of things that the
Yeah.
profane would not be privy to if he was not initiated into this fraternity. So
Right.
so there is things withheld from the general public.
Hmm.
And I think it's for a good reason because it is a nice treat to have if you worked hard and you've
Yeah.
dedicated your life to the craft. It is a
Mhm.
nice little like the cherry on top or whatever. It's like it's beautiful and it's tradition. Some might argue that this can kind of hurt the craft more than help in the age of the declination of members. And that is a valid talking point, but we do want to preserve these traditions and we do want to keep it alive. And some of these degrees would be lost otherwise because they need
Yeah.
tools and things to keep them together. And we need to keep this tradition alive. And
Yeah.
notice that this is like a secret tradition. As a profane, You go to the Barnes and Nobles or Borders or whatever bookstore, and you look at the section, be it New Age or spiritual or secret or Freemasonry or whatever, occult, whatever. It could be anything. But at the profane level, the books that you find are not as informative as the works that you have done. I've went to different bookstores in different parts of the country, and I find your works. At the Scottish Rite, people donate books. Some of them are yours. I'm always seeing your titles.
Great.
Like a spiritual thing. I trust my spirituality. My Freemasonry brought me closer to my spirituality, in my opinion. I can't speak for the fraternity. I'm only one person. I can't speak for everyone else's journey, but in my particular journey, I feel Freemasonry, kept me closer to my faith. It made me reaffirm my faith. It made me realize that this is like an egregore consciousness or something like that. You feel it. Like, and I'm in lodge right now, and I could feel the masonry. I could feel the stories, the brethren in lodge. And it's not always a beautiful lodge. It doesn't have to be. The story, the true story is that the lodge is the members and contribution and their energy, their memories always live on in this craft. And then what we put into it, we get out, and it's going to last for as long as we could take it. It's going to last longer than us. So I really appreciate your contribution to our craft, brother, and I really mean that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
How do you feel about Freemasonry? Is it a big part of your life? Is it something that helped you get closer to your spirituality? If you want to talk a little bit about that journey, that would be cool.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely had pursued spirituality for a couple of decades before I actually became a Freemason. Almost a couple of decades, actually, probably about 15 years. And I was doing other things as well, such as martial arts. So I don't know that it made me closer to spirituality, but I think what it may have done over the long period was help me to say contextualize it. That it gave me a point of reference to other traditions. And one of the really strange things and interesting things about Freemasonry, of course, is that it looks like an awful lot of other traditions. And so some people think it's from the Templars, some people from alchemists or Jesus or the Royal Society or Druids. And there's literally hundreds of different theories. And in a way, that's kind of annoying. But on the other hand, it kind of says something that's interesting about Freemasonry, that it can look like all of these world traditions. And in a sense, through weird coincidences as much as anything else, it kind of embodies a spiritual tradition that is archetypal in our modern age. So I think what Freemasonry did do was allow me to have a kind of experience that was in a sense kind of archetypal, because you can join an occult group obviously today, but I don't think you would get that same kind of particularly like men's initiation rite in those organizations from what I've seen. So I think that's probably what it did more than anything. In regards to my own journey within Freemasonry, I joined in 2001, so quite a while ago now, 20 years ago. And the fraternity was actually very different then. And I was always more interested in the esoteric, and that really wasn't something that was spoken about at all at that point. And when I joined, the publicity lodge, and like pretty much every other lodge in New York at that time, really, wasn't giving talks on Freemasonry. They would have talks on other things, but not on Freemasonry. Like being a fireman or something like that, and it didn't interest me at all. So I decided that I would give a talk on Freemasonry, even though I'd only been a master mason about 4 months. And although I didn't approach it in an arrogant way, I noticed I gave a talk actually on Mason's marks, like stonemason's marks, runes, which are like symbols, and Freemasonry, and made some parallels without making any wild historical claims, or noticing some connections to stonemasonry. But so I did that, and everybody was like thrilled. And then I just started researching more and more. I also started painting some Masonic tracing boards, which are now in the Masonic Library and Museum in New York. And yeah, I just started researching more and more. I gave some talks, and really, until probably around 2015, I think those of us who were doing that, it was kind of falling on deaf ears a lot, or it was like had a very small impact. And it really wasn't until Brian Simmons launched Masonic Con, and the Masonic Con phenomenon sort of went across America. And then Freemasons started saying, oh good, we can talk about the esoteric and about mythology and spirituality and stuff like that, that things really started to change for the fraternity, and I think for me as well, because I've been giving more and more talks and writing more as well. So and I notice now that it's not just my writing on Freemasonry. I haven't written that much on Freemasonry over the last few years, but it's also my writing on the esoteric more broadly, or the occult, or self-improvement, or martial arts that Freemasons are interested in as well. So I think Freemasonry has now become this kind of this meeting point for all these different ideas about spirituality and self-improvement and self-development, which is probably a good thing.
I could say firsthand as a younger Mason, it's not always easy. Uh,
No.
I've had notions in my mind. I'm going to be honest. Is the craft for me? Where's
Yeah.
my place in this thing? It's so big and vast. You think about it a little bit in the back of your mind, like you wonder about your longevity in the fraternity or what have
Yeah.
you. But there's this one brother who I would love to shout out. His name is Brother Wayne Spooner, right worshipful brother. He's a great brother, and he convinced me, that I wasn't doing enough, and I asked myself wholeheartedly, am I improving myself in masonry? Am I getting the most out of it? Am I making the most memories that I can? Am I really
Mm.
the connections with these people, with these brothers that I'm having dinners with? But when after the lodge is over, we all leave and go our separate paths. So I had to take his advice and really just run with it. I had to, when I'm having dinner with someone, I want to know, about them. I want to be more approachable, more jovial. I want to network more. I want to talk with them. I want to really learn about their stories. And I joined, the appendant bodies, and I joined Scottish Rite, York Rite, and I met other brethren online, and there's communities of Freemasons, and there's book clubs, and so you get introduced to more things as you progress, But if you're someone who stays at the Blue Lodge level, and there's nothing wrong with that, we need great Blue Lodge Freemasons who know the ritual, because this is the foundation of
Yeah.
yeah. So we do need great ritual. We need more schools of instruction or what have you, and in most lodges in the country, if we really want to get them acclimated to what else is out there. But we also need to make sure that our appendant bodies are healthy, and because those are great resources for Freemasons like us.
Mm-hmm.
You could go to a Scottish Rite library and check out their titles. And once you're a Master Mason, you could join this book club or this. There's all types of stuff for people like us. But you have to keep digging. You have to keep searching.
Yeah.
You have to keep asking yourself: are you doing the most? Are you improving yourself every day?
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to thank that brother, because he helped me continue on my journey. And it's not always easy. There's a lot of time investment into the craft that you have to put in, a lot of traveling, a lot of networking. Sometimes we don't have the time, sometimes we don't feel good, or we have other things we could be doing, but we sacrifice our time. Like even right now, we're sacrificing our time to build something, because we're building.
Right.
And if we're not building the spiritual temple, if we're not building a better lodge, better community for people around us and our sphere of influence, then what are we doing this for? And when you come in the fraternity, education on Freemasonry is not always readily available in a lot of lodges. So
Yeah, that's right.
it might be in some, but it's not, it's few and far in between in some cases.
Mm.
So, with these modern working tools like the internet and Zoom, I think we could reach, a wider base, a wider audience of Freemasons who are interested, and we could share our stories and help inspire them. I don't care if you're in a farm in you're in a lodge in Iowa. It's a farm, and there might be like 30 Masons that are members there, but there might be one Mason there that is watching this and could be inspired by it. So that's what
Yeah,
I want to bring everyone together and kind of share our stories, because
yeah.
we could definitely help inspire others. And
Mm.
if we're not building a better world, then what are we doing, right? But I appreciate your story. It's really fascinating. All these other orders, you always find a common parallel. Someone was an ex Freemason, or I was reading that John Yarker,
Hmm.
he was still when at the time of his death, he was a master mason in good standing.
Right.
Wow, that's beautiful. So that's a testament to his passion for the craft. Even though he got into little spits and spats with people, and he was really someone who was a prominent learned mason who loved education. He loved Ars Coronati. He
Mhm.
contributed a lot of articles. But this is someone who was a good influence on I think on a lot of people like us. John Yarker, he's a legend,
Yeah.
in my opinion. That might
Yeah.
controversial or what have you, but you really read his articles, read the research that he's done. This guy is definitely a visionary, but yeah, obviously he was, doing things that are, we don't, deal with or associate with or want to associate with now in Freemasonry. But his articles are good, and he is a brother Mason in good standing. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and of course you know, for those who don't know, of course he founded or promoted many different irregular rites, or rites that are pretty obscure, like the Swedenborgian rite, the Memphis Mizraim, and so on. So yeah,
The Neff, the periodicals.
yeah,
Those are pretty cool. I like
yeah,
reading those sometimes.
yeah.
But yeah, your story is definitely interesting. Your martial arts background. Did you want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, I love
Sure.
martial arts. I have family members who are into that, and I know friends who are into that. And it is definitely a beautiful thing. And I feel
Hmm.
that, like, even in some traditions, like like the kata, like in karate, you have like the kata you memorize, right?
Yeah.
That's is pretty similar to like a catechism, but it's like a
Hmm.
physical, and there's some things you say, or a sound you make, or what have you. But I feel like that is part of like a tradition too, like a fraternity.
Yeah.
Chinese had fraternal organizations. They met in secret. These were like secret brotherhoods. They benefited each other. They helped each other out. Like,
Yeah.
so if you want to talk a little bit about your martial arts record, that would be really awesome. I
Sure, sure. Yeah, so I was, as I mentioned, I was primarily interested in spirituality when I was very young. And actually, if you go back into my childhood, I was kind of contradictory because I definitely remember being very influenced by war movies and by going out and buying the soundtracks to like war movies and worrying my mother that I was going to be like this real militant or something. But at the same time, I was also very into like art, and a little later on, like punk, weird fashion and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I didn't think of myself really as like a tough guy or anything, but because I was interested in like particularly Zen Buddhism by the time I got to my early 20s, I wanted to learn to defend myself and do it in such a way that it wasn't contrary to its a spiritual life. So I ended up joining Nampai Chuan Shaolin Kung Fu in London, and I practiced with them for about 3 years. And it was a pretty hard style of Kung Fu. It definitely emphasized like fighting, and there was only the tiniest little bit of meditation. It really wasn't anything like that. And then I came to New York, so I start my time with Nampai Chuan came to an end. And then I started practicing with a guy called David Kaplan in the very early morning on a Saturday in Chinatown, which was very cool. And I practiced with a few different people here and there, a little bit of Tai Chi, very little bit. I couldn't remember anything I'd learned now. A little bit of Kung Fu here and there. And then I started with another Kung Fu school in New York about 12 years ago now. And this last year, I haven't really practiced with them. I've just been doing things by myself with the whole COVID and lockdown situation. But at some point, I'll either go back to them or maybe look at something else. But that the school I've been practicing with for the last 10 years is interesting, and it definitely emphasizes a lot of fighting, a lot of hard iron body training, but also a lot of mental training, like meditation, and what could be called, in a sense, self-hypnosis. And so I'm kind of focusing at the moment on this combination of training the body and the mind through meditation and self-hypnosis, and writing about that, and working with one or two people probably on that sort of thing. But it's just to explain, I am body training, and I can send you an image if you want. There are many different aspects to it. One of it is breaking a slab with a slab of concrete with your fist or hand. Another aspect is having like pieces of 2x4 2x4s broken over your body while you're doing a form. Another one is iron bridge, where you get two concrete blocks and then suspend your body between the back of your heels and your shoulders, so that you're essentially floating in air, suspending yourself just with your muscular tension, and have a big concrete block put on you to make it harder. And then another one is the nail bed, which is literally a wooden board with nails sticking up through it, hundreds of nails, and then you would lay on that. And obviously that's quite a painful experience, especially for me, because I don't have a lot of fat on my body. So the nails would go straight into the muscles. And to do something like that, you have to really like focus your mind and take it away from the pain, which is, for me, was quite significant. Take the mind away from the pain and focus on your breathing, so that the pain, mentally at least, goes away. So there's a lot of mental elements to iron body training. So that's something that I've been doing over the last 10 or 12 years.
Now, like I said earlier, everyone's journey is different, and
Yeah.
spiritual quest or warrior quest or intellectual quest, right? But I've noticed that Freemasonry is kind of like an art form, in my opinion, because your memory does improve when you learn
Mm-hmm.
and you repeat ritual and you learn. It's like you're stacking more and more. It's like Tetris, It's like,
Yeah.
all right, well, now you learn Blue Lodge. Oh, well, what's up with that York Rite ritual? Can you learn this part? And then you learn, hey, can you do a part in the Scottish Rite degree? And then it's like you're jamming more and more information in your mind, and you are indefinitely improving your mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a memory exercise. And
Yeah.
and when I learned in Freemasonry that there's other paths, there's no secret that Freemasonry can be sort of like a gateway to other bodies or
Mm-hmm.
other groups or other study clubs or what have you. A lot of people are members in the craft as well, and another thing. So you get introduced to other things, or, oh, check out this spiritual path, or check out this spiritual whatever. You join other things too.
Yeah.
And when you research into this stuff, you learn that visualization meditation is like really important, and
Yeah.
it definitely helped me. And I was learning about Freemasonry and memorizing ritual while I was also learning about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
sort of like blended both, and it kind of helped me. So
Yeah.
visualization is so important. Like it definitely works. Like even if, like, when you wake up and you think about your day, how your day might start. If you're traveling to a long destination and you have a long drive or something, I like to think about like, if I'm like, too stressed out, or if I'm scatterbrained and I have too much thoughts going in my mind and I'm trying to organize my thoughts, I'm going to think about like what I'm going to do. My process, it's almost like a mental ritual, and like it helps you. You have to unlock parts of your mind, and there's other writers that talk about this as well. We have a date scheduled coming soon. I don't want to, let the cat out of the bag just yet. Things could change, obviously, but we have a writer that's coming up who wrote a few books about, the connection between the acacia and its chemical properties.
Okay. Okay, so I know who that is.
The very controversial,
Hmm.
say but in good taste. We're going to,
Yeah, yeah.
within the ritual, within the context of the Masonic ritual, we're going to carefully and respectfully try to disseminate what might be there, the underlying elements of uh,
Mm,
and what does it really mean? You know,
yeah,
we talk about the immortality of the soul and the energies of our mind, and then and like it all makes a sense. Why is this plant placed at the head of the graves? And things like
yeah.
very deep symbolic symbolism that goes back to some ancient alchemical. I mean, you could even in Egypt, they got the opening of the mouth ceremony, and
Hmm.
there's this work that the I think like it scribes, or I'm not an Egyptologist, obviously, but there's almost like a line formation that they do, that they're walking, the high priest or whatever, they're like consecrating the temple with incense and things, and even in pagan traditions, you see um, almost like ceremonial chants and dancing. In Freemasonry, we have the funeral dirge in some jurisdictions where they.
Hmm.
I don't want to get into details on this forum, but you see a dirge where you're together, a part of something, creating energy. It's like a channeling of energy, building up and creating something. And I'm definitely looking forward to your next title, because
Thank you.
it'll be groundbreaking. So yeah, so I think we definitely covered some stuff in a short period of time. I don't know how much time you have available.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to talk about? Maybe plug some of your works, your website, or your other projects or endeavors.
Sure. Sure. The best thing for people to do would just be to go to my website, angelmillar.com, ANGELMILLAR.com, because apart from learning more about me and my books, I'm also going to be publishing more and more writing on there about consciousness and self-development. So that might be a good thing to check back with.
Yeah, I'll definitely add the links. I'll also
Great.
put the title in there when I edit this up.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to your work.
Thank you.
Now they could pick up on Amazon your other titles that you have available.
Yeah, yeah. My certainly the current one, the three stages of initiatic spirituality, you can get from Amazon or Barnes and Noble, a lot of other places as well. And then the new book will be out in November.
Okay. And not to get into a tangent here, but you do also provide, consultation services, and also
Right.
consultation services as well. I don't know if you want to plug that or not, but I can attest that you definitely are the real deal. You definitely know what you're doing. I feel safe and confident that Brother Angel is going to definitely help guide me to get me where I need to be. So I also personally recommend that if anyone needs any consultation, or maybe some help just to with meditation, or what have you the case is, definitely Brother Angel is a good brother to consult for these services. I could definitely attest to that.
Great. Thank you.
Angel, it's a pleasure to have you on here.
Thank you.
Get you on for another, maybe a legit lecture, maybe some other time. I know during the weekends you are a little tied up, so I would love to get you on another video here. I
Sure.
appreciate the time, Brother Angel. I hope the Grand Architect blesses you and all endeavors. You're doing fantastic work for the fraternity. And I'm very looking forward to that new title coming up.
Great. Thank you very much. It was great speaking with you.
Thank you so much. I am Brother Justice from Modern Working Tools, signing off. Long live the craft. Bless you all. Be safe. Peace.